automatically uploaded. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you very much for being around. And today this presentation is really to share with all the regenerators. It might be on presence or recorded, but the experience of Seven Vortex together with UCI or Costa Rica Regenerativa. And this is why Edward, Victoria, and Jose are around here to really share from the ground what has been happening. What I know from Isabel is that we have been listening like different kinds of ideas and tools, and it's very much appreciated to have a perspective from the ground. So what I wanted to offer this session is not to talk about the tool itself, but really about the experience around it. We have one small issue, that is that our technical team, it is not very proficient in English, so we can just let them speak Spanish as we all speak, and then making a small translation together. But I think Spanish will be easier. Is there everyone here speaks Spanish or not at all? Yeah.
Isabel?
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So well, let me just give you a picture of what we are intending to have here, and Dariel is also there, and Dariel will be part of this presentation. So I'm gonna be introducing for a few minutes Seven Vortex, and then we're gonna have Victoria, and Victoria is kind of on the head of the impact part of the project. So she has been managing multiple projects through the tool, and she will tell us a little bit. Then we'll have Dariel, that is in the Victoria section, and Dariel, it is the one in charge of the biodiversity metrics. So he will explain us how to adapt there. Then we'll have Jose, and Jose will tell us what this kind of tool has been useful for or how it has been useful for him on the ground on a specific ecological garden. And then we'll have Edward to bring us back to the strategic level of how these rings has been helpful and what could do better for improving it. And I think this is open for all the participants because we have asked them to tell us also how to improve it, right? So this is an opportunity that we're taking as a radical collaboration opens. And then at the end, we'll have a little bit of a space just to share about this. So I'm gonna start with my part explaining a little bit about Seven Vortex. And what I want to share, it is, wait, let me just open it. Okay, so this is the first part, and what we want to share today is this tool that is called the rings, and the rings are working inspired by nature on a way to visualize information and impact. As Seven Vortex and as the NGO that we founded in Mexico, we have been using it since 2008, and this is just an example of how to use the tool without data for the SDGs that we're all familiar with. So the impact evaluation challenge was very important, and we wanted to attack it in a systemic way. So if we know about the Sustainable Development Goals that we can agree or not, but we know that they exist, then we also need to ask the question, where are we with these goals and where are we going, which I think is important. So this is what we can present through this structure. And we have been using this structure for more than 100 projects in Mexico since 2008, as I said, and it is just a visual of the rings, like the tree rings, like growth rings, as they call it, or anillos de crecimiento. So we can see time 0 is on the top, and then time 1, time 2, time 3, and we will see all the times here as we wish, and we can divide in different indicators, so we can actually create our own visualization system. So we have created this, but when we came with Costa Rica Regenerativa, it was about how can we make it useful and activate it from the ground, because we're also in COVID. So it was very difficult for us to understand how to connect with the ground from the phone. So we have done it with very tools of presentation, but in this case we have automatized it, and the tool and let's say the whole tool, it is here, it's in regeneratecostarica.com. And you can come here, and this tool is helping you to understand different perspectives. So for example, this could be an investment portfolio. And in this investment portfolio, there are few projects that Victoria is going to talk about them to all of us. So when we're using this video, it takes a little bit longer, but it is there. So what we can see here is the same kind of a structure. I'm going to put one that is white, like empty, and we will see 30 different variables. And these variables are, some of them in the domain of organization, some others in the domain of production, some others in the domain of market, and then we have the ecosystem part. So biodiversity mainly, but other aspects included. How did we get to these variables? So it has been an iteration process, an iterative process. In the first year, we had different kinds of indicators from the theory of the project. But then we realized that these indicators, they were not sensitive enough. So we decided to change it and to take advantage of the different cycle, which was 2022, and then to improve it. And in order to improve it, then we did a participatory process. And in this participatory process, we have decided, or we have, let's say, achieved consensus in the kind of things that we wanted to measure. And this is what it's all about. So the technical team that you're going to listen about right now, they've been part of this process already, and where we have decided how a regenerative development project looks like. So from the side of the participants of the project, from the side of the ecosystem, from the side of the market, commercialization, and from the side of the production, as you have seen it already expressed in the rings. So each of them, it has its own variables. And this is, let's say, the electronic contract that we agreed on, the visual that we agreed on. And this is what we've been looking into the variables. So right now I'm gonna move with Victoria. And then with Victoria, we'll be all in Spanish. And maybe, Edward, you can help us to translate a little bit. Or we can do it together. Yeah. So, Victoria, puedes... no sé cómo mostrar un poco. Hola, ¿cómo estás, Victoria? Muchas gracias por participar hoy. Me gustaría, por favor, que nos ayudaras a describir un poco tu experiencia en cuanto al uso de los anillos desde la perspectiva de un portafolio. Y con gusto puedo poner el visual detrás, pero no sé cómo quieras tú llevar estos minutos que tienes.
Quería contar primero como la historia de lo que hemos hecho con las comunidades. Luego pensé que podría mostrar centrarme en Namibia, como mostrar ahí qué es lo que ha sucedido a partir de los anillos. Y luego, básicamente sería eso, creo.
Okay, she's going to make a brief introduction to what we've been doing with the community farms, and then she's going to go to one specific one, which is called Namibia. To show the applied process of these rings, which are more than just a graphic. It's actually the follow-up of all these variables that Hugo mentioned.
Hugo, no sé si puedes mostrar la foto que te envié.
Claro.
Primero.
Ok, so, déjala busco primero. Si quieres empezar y la voy buscando.
Bueno, este año básicamente lo que hemos trabajado inicialmente con los anillos fue la percepción del equipo, evaluando cada uno de los rubros que ahí hay.
So they did a evaluation, particular evaluation with the perception of the team on how the results are coming out.
Posterior a eso, vimos la necesidad de llevar esto a las comunidades, entonces realizamos un taller.
So they first worked within the team, and then they took it to the community. So they did workshops with the communities.
Le preguntamos a los grupos qué significaba para ellos cada uno de los gradientes, desde abundante hasta degenerativo.
So they discussed with the communities what each of these levels were, from abundance to degenerative, or actually the other way around, from degenerative to abundant, which are the different colors. We are working with communities that some of them don't know how to read and write, so the colors are what help them register the indicators.
Incluso había palabras que no conocían o que les era más difícil de escribir, como resiliente. No obstante, partimos de ¿a qué suena? Y nos dijeron, suena resistente, suena sobreviviente. Y entonces partimos de justamente lo que piensan. En el caso de regenerativo fue bien particular porque ahí describieron lo que habían vivido en el proyecto, o sea, las técnicas que aprendieron. Hablaron de protección de suelo, de comer sano, y así se construyó el significado de cada uno de ellos.
So to get to the definition, it was interesting because there were certain words that were too complicated for them, like resilient. So they decided to work on what does it sound like. And so, for example, for resilient, they said resistant. And that gives them the idea of what resilience was. And then in regenerative, what actually happened is they went back to the experience they had lived through the first year of the project. So they talked about regeneration of soil, eating healthy, and so on.
Así calificaron cada uno de los temas que, bueno, tienen que ver con la producción agropecuaria, la producción de hortalizas, el bienestar de la organización, diferentes elementos que tienen que ver con lo que sucede en el proyecto.
So they had different variables from production in agriculture to the organization of the community and other information which was collected throughout the project.
Si quieres, Hugo, me ayudas a poner los anillos ahora sí, de Nambi, tal vez.
So each of these rings belongs to a different farm. And here's Nambi, which is one of the farms.
Particularmente en Nambi, uno de los puntos fuertes ha sido la alimentación. Cambiaron completamente la dieta, mejoraron el estado de salud y es parte de lo que está más ligado a la regeneración.
So the most important variable for them in Nambi was changing their diet. So starting to eat more healthier food, and you can see the progression from a very malnourished community at the beginning of this phase.
Incluso desde el inicio, digamos, el primer anillo, que es enero, se ve cómo habían más variables degenerativas que se fueron fortaleciendo con el paso del tiempo o teniendo de algún modo regresiones a partir de ciertos hitos que suceden y se pueden ver en los comentarios de la herramienta.
So we can see a progression in some cases towards positive as the origination started happening. And in other indicators where it turned from yellow to red, for example, that went backwards, and you can link it to things that happened. For example, the person who ran the whole initiative, he left the project, and so the organization suffered and went back into red. So you can then rebuild it from there.
Por ejemplo, uno de los últimos hitos es que hemos dado más independencia a la organización y Nambi, toda su producción en este momento depende de ellos. Entonces la rentabilidad pues mejoró, como se ve en los últimos anillos.
So, for example, Nambi is one of the community farms that we have weaned them off from the project money. And so the rentabilidad, how to say that in English?
Profit.
The profit of the farm actually got better because they're now on their own and they have to make it work financially. When we were subsidizing the project, that was not something of concern to the community. But now that they're on their own and they have to make it a business model, then we could see that it transitioned into a more profitable farm.
En un tercer momento llevamos esta imagen a la comunidad para que viera su cambio y para mí fue un punto bien valioso porque además contrarrestamos con los ingresos mensuales que habían tenido y pudieron ver las mejoras y por qué. Entonces hubo como un clic ahí de algún modo.
So in the third moment, they took that graph back to the community and discussed all the variables with them. So the community could actually understand, and based on the income numbers, how the evolution was and what factors affected that income from that multifactorial. So it's a way to move away, and maybe here I'm stepping a bit into my last presentation, from a one focus, one disciplinary approach to a more holistic approach, so you understand the complexity of the farm and not measure just production according to kilograms or whatever was produced, but what affected that income in terms of management, in terms of biodiversity, in terms of production, and so on.
Y bueno, también para ir cerrando y dándole el paso a Dariel, esto mismo, como este por qué las cosas cambian, en el caso de biodiversidad, pues el compañero construyó métricas y es quien se dedica a hacer los monitoreos para ir viendo a través de los meses cómo esto va cambiando y esto cómo se puede relacionar a nivel de producción.
So Dariel is going to now come in and tell me what he has done in biodiversity, because the impact of biodiversity through the different metrics that Dariel is using to measure biodiversity at the farm, in terms of insects at least, and how that affected production and other variables. So you can start actually weaving a true holistic transdisciplinary approach.
Qué bueno, doy el pase a Dariel.
Hola a todos, muchas gracias por la invitación. Hugo, sí puedo compartir pantalla, ¿verdad?
Sí, claro. Dale.
¿La pantalla acá? ¿Sí se ve?
Ya la vemos.
Ok. Bueno, parte de mi labor en esto de Costa Rica regenerativa es medir cómo se dan los cambios que ocurren en las huertas a través del tiempo, o más bien hacer como un tipo de registro de esto, a través de los insectos, cómo van cambiando las poblaciones de insectos.
So we used insects in this case as an indicator of biodiversity and how biodiversity has changed throughout the length of the project.
Entonces, para los anillos, yo tenía que ponerme de acuerdo con los compañeros que estaban a cargo de cada huerta y mencionarles cómo, digamos, en qué nivel o en qué gradiente estaba cada huerta en cierto momento del año o del mes.
So he talked with everybody in the farms, in different farms, and told them about what gradient he's going to use and how it relates to the different farms, so they can have then a monthly follow-up or measurement, basically, of tracking of the progress in terms of biodiversity.
Al principio, realmente era una apreciación muy, no personal, pero netamente basado en la observación que yo tenía. No era algo muy fundamentado.
So at the beginning, it was a more based on personal observation from Dariel's side.
Sin embargo, nos dimos cuenta que, junto con Victoria, que esto podríamos cuantificarlo, podríamos pasarlo a números. Entonces, decidimos que, bueno, en mi caso decidí que esta cuantificación lo hiciéramos a través de observaciones, o sea, que se viera en el campo, analizando las especies que encontráramos y de esta forma irlo poniendo.
So the challenge was setting the different levels from a, let's say, more observational process to a numeric process. So putting numbers onto the different gradients according to working together with Victoria.
Esto dio como resultado esta tabla que ven acá. Nosotros llevamos a cabo 3 monitoreos, el de mariposas, el de artrópodos y el de polillas.
So they followed 3 groups of species: butterflies, arthropods, and moths, and they got to these categories to be able to estimate and put a number on it at each farm.
Si notan, está dividido en 2 tipos, en la tabla de época lluviosa y la tabla de época seca.
So above we have the rainy season, and underneath we have the dry season.
Esto es debido a que la mayoría de huertas se ubican en una parte de Costa Rica que tiene bosque seco. Y el bosque seco cambia mucho de una época a otra. Y esto se refleja en las poblaciones de los insectos.
So these farms are located in the dry forest, Pacific forest of Costa Rica, which has large differences in ecological terms between the rainy season or the dry season. It's about 6 months each.
Entonces, debido a esto, vimos la necesidad de hacer 2 métricas distintas. En la época lluviosa, empecé sacando primero las métricas de generativo. Esto se sacó a partir de muestreos que se hicieron en sitios que estaban totalmente alterados, que la tierra fue removida, que no habían plantas, que estaba definitivamente en un grado degenerativo.
So they started defining what degenerative was, and they went to areas that were very degraded, where the soil had been removed and there were few plants and so on, and started counting the insects there, so they could actually then have a range for what degenerative was in these degenerative areas.
A partir de esto fuimos sacando poco a poco y a través de diferentes muestreos o monitoreos qué intervalo o más bien qué nombre se le podía poner a cada intervalo. Entonces, de esta forma fue como de sustentable. Tuvimos de 20 a 30 especies de mariposas, en resiliente de 30 a 40, en regenerativo de 40 a 50 y así sucesivamente.
So this allowed them, by analyzing with different monitoring processes and sampling processes, to classify what is sustainable, what is resilient, what is regenerative, and what is abundant. So by counting insects in these different habitats, they could establish the gradient.
Esta tabla aplica únicamente para el Guanacaste o para el bosque seco. Si tuviéramos que replicarla en otro sitio, habría que analizar las condiciones de este sitio y acoplarlas a la base de la tabla. Eso significa que todo lo que ven acá puede ser ajustado, o sea, puede ser cambiado en caso de ser necesario o de que las circunstancias se presten para ello.
So as he said before, this is exclusively for Guanacaste, which is a dry forest. If it were to do it in a different area of Costa Rica, then we'd have to do the sampling processes again and adjust these values.
Y eso sería mi parte.
Gracias, Dariel.
Muchas gracias a ustedes.
Muchas gracias, Dariel. This is how we actually bring from a visualization into the metrics after going through this project carriers idea of an investment portfolio. And then now we're going to move with Jose. And Jose is also part of the projects, and he's part of the technical team, but he's also an entrepreneur. And that matters a lot because this is the kind of people that Costa Rica Regenerativa has been supporting. And he will present it from his business perspective and the rings, how it has been or not helpful on the ground for him with his team.
Thank
José,
you.
¿cómo estás?
Hi.
Muchas
Hola.
gracias por estar aquí.
Thank you for the place, for the opportunity to be here. Can you listen to me? Yeah. Okay. And well, as Hugo said, I work with Costa Rica Regenerativa, but I am also a farmer, and I have been working with a team for some years ago, and I am pretty new using this tool. The last week was the first time that we used this tool with all the team, because I was using this team alone as a coordinator. I was using this team and analyzing everything for myself. And one of the things that I really want to say, or that I analyze, is that this this tool can change, because is you have different ways to think. Like, everybody thinks in different ways. So maybe I think that something is good, but my other partner think that is not that good. And sometimes it's difficult to analyze what is good or what is bad. For example, if we are talking about money, how much is abundance and how much is the generativo? I don't know if you understand what I am trying to say. But that was one of the things that I analyzed, that this tool can change if you work this tool with people or if you do it alone. And it's not that easy to make numbers. For example, how can you make a number, how people, if people are happy or not? How can you use it? So it's difficult to make a metric about this, how happy people feel in this month or the next month. But I think that this is a great tool to analyze how the project is in general. So it's different. Like, for example, if you are reading a paper, if you are reading like a document, it's not the same if you are watching this graphic. You can analyze where you really need to work, what is good or what is bad, and where you have to concentrate more. And so I think this is a great tool to do that, to make this change. So sometimes it's very boring and very complicated to analyze a project if you are just reading a paper, if you are reading a document. But if you see this graphic, then you can see where you need to make more efforts or changes. And everybody will understand this. Also, if you don't read, because we have a partner that she cannot read, and for her it's very easy to analyze our project watching this graphic. So probably is a great way to understand how a project is working. And also, like, of course it's very important to have a north, okay, because we want to be regenerative, we want to make a change, but that is difficult. It's not easy to do that, and you have to go little by little. So sometimes we want to make the things better, but that takes time. Okay, so with this graphic we can analyze that time, like what is that process. I am not very good in English, but I hope that you understood what I trying to say. I don't know if you have a question, or Hugo.
Muchas gracias, José, lo hiciste súper bien y gracias por el esfuerzo. Sabemos que es una segunda lengua y que no todos lo hemos podido hacer, entonces tu esfuerzo, chapeau. Gracias. Well, I think now is the time for us to receive Edward, which is the visionary and the head of this project that I've been invited to work, and I've been living joyfully in Costa Rica. So please, Edward, can you summarize and take us through the possibilities of the strategic decision making that this tool could bring, and how to improve it in the next iteration, actually?
Yeah, let me go back a moment. We are trying to push regeneration at a global scale. And for that, following Buck Fuller's suggestion, we're not fighting the system, we're actually creating a better one that will make the old one obsolete. So in order to do this, what we need to do is demonstrate that regeneration works. And another issue, very important and critical, is regeneration is not only food production. I see a lot of regenerative efforts done through planting trees. And yes, that's part of regeneration. But we're actually promoting a very holistic approach which integrates environment, spirituality, economics, culture, society, and politics even. So we're working on a bioregional scale where we work with municipalities, we work with mayors, we work with agriculture, we work with cattle farmers, we work with biological corridors. So it's a very complex process. And the key is demonstrating that we are moving towards regeneration. We need to have some very clear way of demonstrating this. And being so complex and so diverse, how do we integrate this into something that people can say, oh yeah, they're moving. So with this process, for example, we now have in the agricultural farms, the community farms, about 50% more insects than we have in protected areas in Costa Rica. So we are increasing significantly biodiversity using these indicators, and we're still additionally monitoring birds and bats. So bats are half the mammals of Costa Rica are bats. So it's another very critical indicator. So using these instruments, we can actually demonstrate to the outside world, especially funders and naysayers, saying that you can't achieve regeneration, blah, blah, blah. Okay, this is happening. So we're increasing productivity, but we're increasing the health of the people. They're eating better, they're eating healthier. We're increasing the community engagement, so we're increasing the organizational capacity of a community. We are able to detect to the inside of the project where we need to concentrate. We can see in dark green those areas that are working well, but we can see in red, and especially if it started green and turned yellow and turned red, that's an alert. So as a project manager and working with funders, I can easily demonstrate or identify where I have to concentrate so that the project does not fail. And that, if we're looking at the amount of community farms, over 500 people produced their food during COVID, during this, be it in family farms or be it in community farms. If we have to look at an Excel sheet to make this.
Have we lost Edward? All of us, or just me? We have lost him.
Edward, we can't hear you. Something happened to your sound.
Turn back into green or even blue. You can see we don't have very many blues here because this is a very recent process and it will take time to get to that regenerative abundant component. So as a project manager working with all the complexity, because we can use this for the work with the municipalities. We can use this for the work with the cattle farmers and using savory methodology to do holistic cattle grazing. We can work this as a bioregion, so we can put these rings together and look at it as a bioregion. So is Guanacaste, which is our starting point for going to the whole country, which we're already starting to do. Is it actually moving towards regeneration or not? What else do we have to add? How are we affecting biodiversity while we're farming, while we're regenerating soil, while we're fixing carbon, while we are harvesting water, while we're enhancing local development, while we're bringing communities into the economic system. They were left out of the economic system based on tourism, and only a few people actually got the big benefit of tourism. The rest had just cheap jobs. So we can actually measure the progress of a bioregion into regeneration. So in summary, that's it.
Well, thank you very much, Edward. And I don't know if now is the time for questions. And We still have 10, 20 good minutes. Your questions could be in Spanish or in English, or if you want us to get through something else in the same process, then please, this is the space that we wanted to share with all of you, since we believe that this is helpful for regeneration everywhere. Isabel, please.
I have a question. That was completely fascinating, and I'm deeply impressed. I have a question about, is it possible to create a way to measure regeneration in terms of the capacity of those communities to learn and adapt? A transformational metric almost.
Yeah, I think it's linked to the, I can't find the correct words in English, sorry, but the educational threshold of that community. I'm not talking about reading and writing. I'm talking about their culture and their understanding, their capacity to analyze complex things. Many of these communities, we chose the communities that were harmed most by COVID and lack of food. So we started working with the most vulnerable communities. Tempate, for example, there were 2 suicides within the community during COVID. People just got so desperate that they committed suicide. I talked with mothers that were crying because they hadn't fed their babies for 3 days. They had no food. The tourism industry just closed overnight, and the government allowed the hotel industry to protect them, to fire everybody without paying. But nobody was worried about the people who got kicked out of their jobs, and there was no agriculture here. There's no tradition of agriculture. Actually, we were told you cannot produce any agriculture, and especially not with chemicals in that degraded land, with the scarcity of the water, and people who don't know how to farm. So I guess if you are working with a better educated community in terms of worldview, in terms of culture, or even, I'm not saying more exposed to educational process, I'm saying less harmed by a degenerative model of development that was imposed upon them. If we go back to the grandparents, they knew how to live. And our development model, pushed by the World Bank, pushed by the globalization process, just basically left these people out of the model. So their hopes might be of an expensive cell phone. That is their wish. They already lost the ability in many cases, and I'm generalizing here for sake of the discussion, but they've lost the ability to have concrete values. The cultural component for me is one of the most critical ones, and it's very closely related to the spiritual component, and that has been totally destroyed by consumerism and by trying to imitate the tourists. So, you know, the tourists dressed in flip-flops, they dress in shorts. That's not how these communities used to dress. And now everybody's spending money on buying the most expensive flip-flops. The better ones are the ones that have the little flag of Brazil on it, because they're the ones that cost $25. So how do you bring this back? And that is basically working with them, and that's what I think Victoria is doing now, to bring back their self-esteem, and to actually recognize that what they're doing is really valuable for them, and is actually the glue that brings the community together.
Yeah, great answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Leti, please.
Sí, muchas gracias. Yo también quería darle las gracias tanto a Victoria como a Hugo, ¿no? como a José Mario, porque han presentado de una manera muy interesante el prisma que yo no había visto antes, ¿no? El 7 Vortex, la manera de presentar así unos proyectos integradores, ¿no? Pero me planteaba lo difícil de las dimensiones de la regeneración, ¿no? Que estamos en una conferencia de regeneración bioregional, y la parte de la regeneración a veces la aplicamos solamente a los territorios, a los terrenos, ¿no? Y no a los espacios conjuntos que incluso habitamos justamente en esta sala, ¿no? Y quizá mis comentarios en el chat han ido un poco más en esa línea, ¿no? De cuáles son los sesgos muchas veces que incorporamos, ¿no? A estos espacios comunes. Y solamente quería quizá a quien quiera que haya presentado que pudiera contestar un poco en este sentido, ¿no? De más del espacio interno, porque hay un chico de Costa Rica con el que estoy hablando ahora mismo en el chat y me dice, es una perspectiva muy buena, me gusta mucho. El caso es que culturalmente y en el territorio no se está viendo y no se vive así, ¿no? Quería un poco una reflexión sobre la perspectiva interna, sobre la regeneración en cada territorio.
Okay, so how?
Le damos como para seguir de la discusión la palabra a Victoria o a José, quien quiera, y después como damos la conclusión. We're gonna first give the word to those who answered, and then we will bring back the translation, if you're okay. José, Victoria, ¿quién quiere contestar esa pregunta desde la perspectiva, me parece, tica, ¿no?
Sí, hola. Bueno, creo que entiendo el sentimiento y por eso voy a hablar tal vez en español, si es que tal vez todos o la mayoría de acá entienden español, creo que sí, según lo que, ok, Leti, creo que yo, por ejemplo, yo viví en San José por muchos años, que es la ciudad de Costa Rica, y huí de San José para poder estar en el campo, para poder estar más cerca de la naturaleza, para poder estar con personas tal vez que por estar acá en Guanacaste, donde vivo ahora, iban a estar un poco más conscientes de lo que era la sostenibilidad o la regeneración, pero me di la sorpresa que las personas acá también ignoraban mucho toda la parte de conservación, de amar lo que usted tiene alrededor, de respetar los recursos que tenemos. Y más bien las personas, tanto en la ciudad como en la parte rural, también necesitan aprender mucho. Eso es algo cultural. Yo vivo en un cantón que se llama Ojancha, que es líder en Guanacaste, como conservacionista o un cantón líder en sostenibilidad. Y aquí las personas se esfuerzan mucho por tratar de ser diferentes. Pero aún así la juventud, la mayoría de los estudiantes en el colegio en las que yo trabajo, ellos no ven una oportunidad aquí. No ven una oportunidad en el campo, no ven una oportunidad en la agricultura. Sus familias tienen terrenos, tienen fincas, y no ven un futuro ahí. Ellos quieren ganar dinero en una empresa. En la educación empieza todo, ¿verdad? En las escuelas, en los colegios. Y les meten, ok, para que usted sea importante, usted tiene que trabajar en una compañía, tiene que tener una casa, tiene que sacar un préstamo, tener un carro, en una familia. Y bueno, creo que la mayoría tal vez de nosotros que estamos acá tenemos una visión diferente, un sentimiento, una conciencia diferente y tenemos que esparcirlo, ¿verdad? Esparcir ese sentimiento, ese conocimiento. No es fácil ni en la ciudad ni en la parte rural. Así que uno no va a escapar de eso porque al final el mundo se mueve por el dinero y por esos intereses materiales. Pero hasta que las personas entren en una real crisis, como pasó con la pandemia, hasta que las personas tengan una crisis y tengan una necesidad, aprenden y toman cambios y en buena hora nosotros estamos acá para también guiar, ser líderes y guiar a muchas personas que lo necesitan en la regeneración. Entonces, sí, esto es un proyecto relativamente nuevo, hemos aprendido demasiado. Y somos líderes de algo en los que necesitamos todavía aprender más, ¿verdad? Pero solo con el tiempo y con la constancia, esto se va a desarrollar de la forma en la que queremos, pero hay que seguir.
So, Leti, ¿quieres traducirlo tú? ¿Quieres que lo traduzca yo, más o menos?
Si quieres
Vale.
tú, para que no ponga yo mi sesgo.
Pues, sesgo tenemos todos. So I'm gonna try to translate this, but this is really, the question was about how is someone local, like a Tico, like from Costa Rica, is taking this approach because it seems to be very difficult to have not just followers, but regenerators around the world. So Jose, and I'm just explaining the general idea, but Jose It's was taking us through the experience of being in Costa Rica, whether you are from the city or you are as a farmer on the farms, on the countryside. He says that it's difficult because we all need education around it, and that we need to be leaders and we need to be sharing what we know. So actually, it helps to move forward with this discussion. ¿Está bien como idea, José? Y dejamos hablar a Victoria. So,
Sí, claro, claro. Genial.
okay, so now Victoria is gonna give her opinion.
Hola Leti, gracias por la pregunta. Me parece como bien importante también ir hacia lo interno. En general yo creo que la realidad es muy contradictoria. En todo sitio hay contradicciones. Desde lo que yo he vivido cerca de las comunidades ha sido muy valioso. No vivo 100% la regeneración, es como un proceso, es un camino, pero para mí ha sido maravilloso ver cómo las comunidades van aprendiendo de la regeneración en una mezcla, sí, cultural, desde sus tradiciones, desde lo que han vivido, cómo hay una conciencia de personas que aplicaron agroquímicos durante mucho tiempo y tuvieron afecciones en la piel, en la vista, y ahora ven que hay productos naturales que pueden producir alimentos. Algo así como tan sencillo, por ejemplo, la idea de proteger el suelo es algo de lo que ha quedado bastante ahí. La idea de que mi cuerpo y mi salud ahora es diferente, o sea, vivir esos pequeños cambios que son realmente valiosos ha sido como maravilloso verlo, o incluso cómo estos espacios generan paz, que es uno de los principios de la regeneración también. Son espacios de encuentro de las personas, de mujeres que quieren tener un espacio fuera de la casa y lo encuentran en una huerta, aprendiendo cosas. Entonces, creo que desde pequeños ejemplos es donde yo he vivido esa regeneración, desde verlo, desde sentirlo poco a poco. Pero es un proceso, ¿verdad? Yo creo que ahí vamos caminando entre ir y venir en la realidad, en la complicación de la vida de todo mundo, porque siempre hay cosas, pero por ahí para mí ha sido la experiencia, tal vez.
Tu turno, Leti.
Yeah, that was beautiful. She referred to the experience of having this contradiction between what is internal regeneratively and what is on the ground. And it's like a continuous process of working into regeneration. But she started that working with women and in those spaces is how you can really feel what is regenerative. And in these places and regions, women sharing the space and working together was like really the glue for doing that. So it was, well, I think it was beautiful. Like it starts with working and feeling the spaces where you inhabit.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, now we have Randall, I think also from Costa Rica.
Hola, qué
Hola.
bueno. Qué bueno de ti. Sí, mira, mi pregunta es, ¿cuál es el proceso para abordar un proyecto en la herramienta? Me parece bastante interesante y cómo estar en contacto, si hay un equipo de acompañamiento o algún otro medio para ver guías o si las hay, pero sí me puse de una vez a atravesar un poco, ¿verdad? Pero veo que no tengo proyecto, entonces quiero saber cuál es el proceso.
Yeah, so Randall is asking about the process to connect into the tool. The tool is made for having multiple projects with the same kind of indicators for the moment. It works as a functional prototype. So right now, the process to make it work wherever you are in the world, not just in Costa Rica, but wherever, is to ask for access, whether it's to Victoria or to me. And then we can create a project in there. And by creating a project, we'll have access to the same kind of variables that we are using. For the moment, it is not feasible to change and to customize, but this is what we are thinking to do, because every indicator should be locally attuned and responsive. And this is what we want to embrace, diversity from the bottom up. Someone else? Catherine, Lisa, whoever. We have still 5 minutes, and then, or if there are no questions, this is okay as well. I don't know if you want to bring any conclusion, Edward, after what you have seen here. And on my side, I'm really thankful for all of you being there. And I think little by little, we keep adding for having a better world. And I'm very proud to be working in this project, because I have seen that the difference is made by the people. It is not just by the project. We all face difficulties, but when you are with a team that is driven by purpose and that has all this light in the interior, I think we are all able to coordinate and to aggregate. And my hope is that we can find this pathway as a species, and that we can bring all these bioregions really thinking about how to be healthier. And this is just one part of the project. So Dariel, Victoria, Edward, Jose, Melina, that was there also. Thank you very much for giving Seven Boards the opportunity to participate there. And I give you the closing if you have some thoughts to share.
Yeah, going back to the discussion we had with Letty, or her question, this is part of a global initiative. So we expect to co-create solutions for regeneration by working together across the planet. So this is an important tool for us, which we want to share. It's still in a beta version. We're still making it better. We have to agree probably on how to identify indicators for different bioregions. It will be different in South Devon with Isabel than here in Guanacaste. It will be different on the Atlantic coast, or in Africa with Clement. So what we're trying to do is actually set a basis for cross-pollination communication to actually start working together, looking for new solutions. And this also ties together with the educational hive, which we presented yesterday, the day before, I can't remember now, to really set a network for collaboration. So everything is shareable. Maybe some products are not that easy to use, not that friendly. We have done this basically scratching the bottom of the pots to see where we can pick up the last pennies. And usually these processes are capital intensive at the beginning. So we still have to go, but I think together we can actually start creating this. And the invitation is to work on, put your information in the hive. We will be launching this over the next few weeks to have actually the capacity to work together, so you can identify who else is working on MRV, monitoring, reporting, and verification, who is working in the tropics, who is working on regenerative tourism, who is working on regenerative agriculture, and then we can start working together. So everything we present here is an open platform for sharing. We're still in the process. We welcome a lot of people. For example, Randall here has been working with seeds for quite a while, and we have included seeds. And actually Clemens is and his friends from Ghana are in our certificate program paying with seeds because they don't have the way to send money over. So it's a whole new process of reinventing the reality and building a better future, which will make the old one obsolete. So we stand by that, and this is not nobody imposing anything. It's all open for discussion and for co-creation. I don't know if anybody else wants to say something.
Jose, Victoria, or someone else, just to say goodbye.
Gracias por la oportunidad.
Dariel.
And I also wanted to just express my gratitude for being able to be in this group. It's for someone who has been striving on the ground for, I think, every single topic, and even the last one, the seeds, just that word sets something off in me that we've been working very hard here. So this is the first time I've encountered, other people who actually have an interest in this beautiful project of keeping the regeneration going and keeping farming alive and protecting the seeds so that we can grow our own food and all of the above. I'm just totally overwhelmed by the fact that there's other people out there. Thank you.
Okay, I guess that was the session.
Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. Hasta luego a todos.
Gracias.
Thank you very much. for being
Gracias.
there.
Muchas gracias.
See you
Lindo
next
día.
time. Bye bye.